Howdy, remarketing fans, and welcome back. The infinite sea of data and characteristics and behavioral trends that you could pick up from your website visitors that your Google Analytics tag or whatever tracking tag is going to track is tremendous. Having a manageable way and setting yourself up with a detailed, specific approach to building these remarketing campaigns is really important. So I want to talk to you about funnel-based remarketing segmentation. It's a really powerful technique. It's probably the best, and it's the best technique to use. At least it's the technique that we've seen to be the most successful in our client accounts. So I think it's an important technique to focus on now. While any business will see specific characteristics differently, so which specific page a person viewed versus time on site versus gender, all these different characteristics, which products a potential customer viewed, they're going to mean something different for every business. Not every business is going to see the same value and see the same trends in their data attached to certain behaviors on site. But every single business has a funnel. For some businesses, the buyer funnel will take literally a fraction of a second. You might have an extremely impulsive buy where a person, even on a subconscious level, goes through all the different stages in the buyer's funnel in a second. And the buyer's funnel for bigger businesses, especially in B2B settings, could take a year, could take more than a year. But every human being goes through the core fundamental phases of the buyer funnel before they make a purchase or before they sign up for a service, whatever it may be. Planning your remarketing campaigns around your sales funnel is a really powerful way to start organizing your lists, organizing your segments, and breaking down your marketing objectives into smaller, more manageable chunks. On top of that, using remarketing campaigns to help move your website visitors through your buyer funnel is really a very powerful sales tool. So let's jump in here and let's take a quick look and discuss the buyer's funnel. I know if you guys have come from my previous AdWords course on the search network, or really typically if you've watched anything on marketing, you probably know about the buyer's funnel, but this is my version, and a refresher can never hurt. So the first stage of the buyer's funnel is awareness. A person is discovering the issues, particular problems he might have, frustrations. He's discovering that there's an issue and that there might be potential solutions to that problem. Then the person will move into this phase that's called consideration. Some people call it evaluation, where a person now starts considering and evaluating potential solutions to his problem. So if his back is hurting, he might, I've used that example before, he's going to now start looking for potential solutions for his back problems. That might be in the form of therapy, it might be in the form of a product, it might be in the form of a service, but he's going to start evaluating what's out there and kind of entering into that decision-making process. Next, we have what's called intent. So intent really spans the gamut of quite a lot of different variables or a lot of different stages depending on the business, but it really focuses on a person starting to really make a decision that this is the solution I want to my problem. I want this particular product, I want this particular service, this particular brand at this time, at this price. Using the information he gathered in that evaluation stage, the buyer now enters into intent. I'm really solidifying my decision. Then naturally, we're going to make a purchase. That's either signing up for service. It could be, putting your email address in to download an ebook or sign up for a blog, buy a product. So that's the purchase. This is the core. So this is the core of the buyer's funnel: awareness, consideration, intent, and purchase. That's what we're really concerned with. There is this idea of loyalty where people will come back for repeated purchases, which is important. It's not as much of a focus for our purposes, just in terms of remarketing training. And then you have advocacy, where your customers are so happy, they're so thrilled, they're so enamored with you as a business owner, with your products, with your services, that they're telling their friends, they're advocating, they become a brand ambassador, as people in the field like to call it. So once again, this process could happen in a second or over the course of a year, but that's not your issue so much. At this point, your job as a marketer is to really figure out which actions or characteristics, the behaviors on site, and just drill that into your head. Whenever we say characteristics, whenever we say actions, we're talking about user behaviors that we're tracking with our tracking tag. We're talking about which pages a person viewed, time on site. We're talking about gender. We're talking about browser. We're talking about time since last purchase. We're talking about bounce rate. So any of those characteristics. So which combination or what combination of characteristics tell you what stage that person is likely to be in the buyer's funnel. Keep in mind, you're never going to get it right all the time, and it's going to be far from imperfect. At the end of the day, marketing and tracking data and predicting human behavior is inherently a very, very unpredictable thing to try to do. But your role is to try to be as accurate as possible, coming up, understanding your users, understanding your website visitors, and deciding this combination of characteristics, this behavioral trend, tells me that this person is likely still considering our solution, or this type of behavior that followed this behavior is telling me that this person is likely in the intent stage and they're getting ready to make a purchase. Every stage of the buyer's funnel, we're going to talk about this in the next section, every single stage of the buyer's funnel is going to have an appropriate message, an appropriate bid. It's going to shape your remarketing campaigns. We're not just doing this for fun. This is the pillars of how we're going to ultimately create our ads, set our max CPC bids, determine the value, how aggressive we want to be, and then using that combination of factors to nurture people through that buyer's funnel. Now, let's bring this into real life for a second and talk about just, a typical e-commerce. I know not all of you guys watching this are e-commerce, but I bet some of you are. What a typical e-commerce structure would look like moving a customer down the funnel. So stage one, awareness, you have a blog post, an organic listing, might be a PPC ad, a social post, etc. That brings the user to the homepage. So a person's aware they have a problem, they do a search, fine. Then you have consideration. Users are browsing your site, they're checking out individual product pages. So you might say that an individual product page, somebody who viewed a product page after coming to the home page, but before getting to a checkout page or the cart page, that person's in the consideration phase. They're spending a certain amount of time on site. You might want to bring in scroll depth, and we'll talk about combining characteristics in a second. But that's the basic consideration phase. Let's say for a typical e-commerce situation, it might be different for you. Intent. So a user adds an item to their shopping cart. That's a really easy one. That shows intent. That shows that person is likely they have intent to buy. Now, once again, it's not perfect. You'll have many cases where people are adding things to their shopping cart and they don't intend to buy it. We know that, great. But overall, we're trying to be as accurate as possible. Purchase, which is somebody reaching the checkout page. So somebody who has already purchased, or if somebody who's already purchased, they'd be on the thank you page. But if somebody has a stronger intent to purchase, they might have reached the checkout process. Don't overlook the checkout pages, the cart pages. That's an important remarketing list, a remarketing attribute to keep in mind. Loyalty could be additional purchases, and advocacy could be somebody promoting your brand, word of mouth, people telling these are actions that would tell me that this person's in the advocacy stage of the funnel. So keep in mind, this is a typical e-commerce scenario. The same exact structure would apply in our case if it was a service-based industry. You might be an attorney. So a person might come to your homepage. A person might check out specific legal services that you offer. So that would be, that might be akin to the consideration phase. A person might click on the contact us page for a specific legal service, or they might go to your bio page or your about us page. That might give you that sense that he might be in the intent phase. Somebody actually submitting a form, or somebody starting to submit a form but then abandons the form, that might be like the purchase phase. So somebody actually becoming a client of yours would be the end of the purchase phase of that funnel. So this could apply to any single situation. You guys are smart enough. We don't need to necessarily go through every single type of industry and every single type of website or company online and talk about what the structure would look like. But the idea is to get an overall sense that certain actions and those attributes, that's the idea here. The attributes and the actions that we use to build our remarketing segments in the funnel-based segmentation strategy, they all line up to what stage of the funnel the people in this segment are likely to be in. And we're going to talk about how that gets even more powerful in the coming 2 to 3 lectures. So thank you very much, guys. I hope this was helpful, good refresher. It's building the blocks. It's the building blocks of a very, very useful remarketing strategy. So stick with it. We're going to get it. You're going to build these campaigns and they're going to be highly profitable. I guarantee it. Looking forward to talking to you guys soon in the next section.